Like I mentioned, today's session is a step-by-step to getting started with Google Classroom and ASSISTments. So today we're going to focus on how you can get started with ASSISTments as a Google Classroom teacher. Before we dive into today's session, I wanted to do some brief introductions. So I'm Brian Story, the Director of Teacher Engagement at ASSISTments. Prior to this work, I've worked for ASSISTments for several years, but before that, I was a classroom teacher for a decade in Washington, D.C. And Norfolk Public Schools in Virginia. So very happy to be here with y'all today, and I'll pass it over to Charmaine.
Hi, everyone. I'm Charmaine Franklin. I am the school success manager, so I get to support Brian in his work. This is my first year with ASSISTments, but prior to that, I was also a classroom teacher, taught at the high school level, and then was an instructional coach, and also did instructional leadership and development at the state level for Wisconsin, and also some work with LDOE in Louisiana.
Awesome. Thank you, Charmaine. As a reminder, all attendees today are going to get a PDF copy of the deck and a recording of the session. So if you want to come back and reference those materials, you'll have that option. If you need help at any point during today's session, feel free to use the hand raise feature in Zoom. Charmaine is going to be our chat moderator, so she's going to be keeping track of any questions or anything that you share that comes into the chat. And on that note, let's start with just a little break of the ice question. If you could have a superpower, what would it be? And feel free to share in the chat. We'd love to hear from you.
We got a couple people who would like to time travel or teleportation and reading minds. We thought about how to make, earlier, Brian and I were talking about this, and we were like, a way to have free money all the time.
Free money. See, oh, nice. Be like Samantha from Bewitched. Stop time so you could have more. That's a good one. Mine was flying. When I was a kid, I used to dream about being Peter Pan. So I think I'm still kind of, also I was Peter Pan like 4 years in a row for Halloween. It was like really serious. But I'd probably like to fly. All right, so let's keep going. Before we dive into the content for today's session, you want to go ahead and log into your assistments.org account with your Google Classroom login credential. So just to show you what that looks like, just in case you've not done it before, when you're on the ASSISTments website, you can either click login or sign up. It's going to give you the option to choose Google. And then when you've done that, you can put in your Google Classroom login credential, and then it will pop you straight into your ASSISTments account. So I'll give folks a chance to do that. I'll give about 20 or 30 more seconds. And then to make sure that you get the most out of today's session, we want to make sure you have a teacher role. So I'm going to show you how to see if you do and what to do if you don't have one. And Charmaine, is this showing up? Is this big enough on the screen? Should I zoom in? We good?
I will zoom in just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. There we go. Do it that way. Mm-hmm. So once you're in your account, and I have a slide that's going to recap this as well. Once you're in your account, you want to go to the top right-hand corner and click your name. And then you'll click Settings. And right here under Account Settings, you should see Current Roles. And if you have a teacher role, you will see it there. And if you don't, it'll give you a button that you can click to learn more about how to get a teacher role. So you want to go ahead and click that. And so just going to a recap of the slide over here, you'll click your name in the top right-hand corner and go to Settings. Under that first tab, Account Settings, you'll see your user roles or current roles at the bottom. If you do not have teacher under user roles, you'll see how to get a teacher role. You can click that and then put this code. And Charmaine, would you mind just typing this code in the chat as well? You can enter this code and click submit, and that's going to make sure everybody here has a teacher role. Oh no, sorry, Charmaine, the correct code is this one here. That's just a screenshot. That brings up a good point. We should probably not have the screenshot with a different code in it. But the code is EERQEE. And I'll give about 30 more seconds for folks to make sure that they have a teacher role or to add it if they don't have it. If you're having any issues with that, feel free to pop it in the chat and we'll see if we can get you sorted. In the meantime, would love to hear where some folks are joining us from. Feel free to pop that in the chat as well. I'm joining today from Cary, North Carolina. I live just outside of Raleigh. Love North Carolina. And I'm originally from Southeastern Virginia. Charmaine, did you want to share where you're located?
For sure. I am in New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri. I am a nomad, so I have been here, there, and everywhere, but I am currently in New Orleans. I see Deborah's also in Louisiana, and in Benton. We have all the different coasts going on. So that's
all over the place. Yeah.
I'm loving it. Okay.
Yeah, it's awesome. We got Michigan, Ohio, Boston, Massachusetts, Northern Idaho. Awesome. We're so happy to have all of y'all with us from all over the country. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on. Again, let us know if you had any issue with making sure you have a teacher role. Just a quick overview of our agenda. So we're going to briefly speak about what ASSISTments is. Then we're going to kind of give you a chance to immediately immerse into the teacher and student experience. Talk a little bit about introducing ASSISTments to your students. So some key considerations there, how you can access your ASSISTments data. And we have some resources around your plan with ASSISTments. So how you can plan for onboarding students and moving forward before we wrap up. Our goals for today's session, we want you to understand that teacher and student experience. We want you to be able to find and assign content from your curriculum and also have what you need to be ready to introduce ASSISTments to your students. So ASSISTments is a math practice and assessment tool that empowers teachers to target class instruction, monitor learning, and intervene quickly to keep students on track. We are primarily a formative assessment tool. So the question is, what does that mean? If you ask, 500 teachers what formative assessment means, they might all have somewhat different definitions, or in some cases very different. So we just want to sync up on what we consider formative assessment, which is a planned process where teachers or students use assessment-based evidence to adjust what they're currently doing. So formative assessments are practice where the evidence is used to guide instruction moving forward and make sure students get what they need. I want folks to take a moment and post in the chat, what is the biggest challenge you face when trying to implement an effective formative assessment routine in your curriculum? I'll give folks about a minute or two just to share in the chat. And by the way, thanks everyone who has already shared in the chat. We appreciate anybody who's willing to share. We'll give a little bit longer.
We got some coming in, and time, definitely never enough time. Definitely student buy-in. I understand that. Teaching high school, that was always an interesting notion there. Yeah, and then time to remediate. I totally agree. We get a lot of data in, and then what are we doing with the data?
And thanks Latrice, Tina, and Lynette for sharing so far. Oh, there we go. What do we have here? Time to go through students' work and apply next steps. That's that is sort of like the pink elephant in the room, isn't it? Every curriculum tells you to use data to modify your instruction, but when? It's it's always an open question. And then, yeah, that's great, Deborah. So making it effective. So, okay, I've got these data. Now what? These are all great sort of really common challenges that teachers experience when they're trying to do effective formative assessment. And so we want to help you get to a place where ASSISTments is kind of answering those questions for you and helping you to make an effective formative assessment routine. Oh, pause that. So just to clarify, we think about ASSISTments in terms of 4 steps. The first one is that the teacher assigns online. Students complete the assignment and get immediate feedback, corrective feedback as they go. The teacher then has immediate data where they can analyze the results instead of spending a bunch of time grading. And then the teacher discusses key data points with students and targets time, in instruction based on what students need. So let's hear from an ASSISTments teacher about why they can't teach math without ASSISTments.
Oh, you can't teach math without ASSISTments. Just your life would be a lot harder if you're doing it on paper. You're going to have 30, plus pieces of paper in front of you and look at each one of them. And so the grading piece is really fast and it's real time. So yes, you cannot teach without ASSISTments because you're going to be wasting a lot of time and you don't get to then see what the students needs right away instead of wasting your time with papers and stuff. So don't teach without ASSISTments. You can, but don't. Yeah.
And so, we kind of are trying to strike at the core of this, that like teachers need to be able to leverage technology so that they're getting data quickly and so that they can intervene for students quickly when content is still fresh, all within a very limited time frame of a class period or by the next day. And we all understand as current and former classroom teachers that you don't have time during the regular workday to get the kind of grading and data analysis done to really implement a formative assessment routine day to day with fidelity. I'm single, or at least I was single when I was a teacher, and I barely had time to do that, much less for folks who have kids and all sorts of other things going on. And so it's like implicit that you have to basically have no life in order to make sure that kids get the supports they need based on the data you're getting. And we just don't think that that's an adequate solution. So ASSISTments is here to kind of fill that gap. Just to reference the progression of our free webinars this year, we do start with our step-by-step guide to getting started. Then we'll have some additional sessions around how to use and analyze the data, called From Learning Data to Learning Growth. And then we'll have some deep dive sessions on particular features and topics within our platform that we don't necessarily always get to in our free sessions, but we want to do a deep dive and kind of show y'all some functionality that you may find useful. So now that we've kind of gotten through all of that great context and we've gotten a chance to hear from some of y'all as well, we're going to immerse in the teacher and student experience. And so the first thing that teachers want to understand is that we have a large content library. We contain several core curricula in ASSISTments, including illustrative mathematics, open up resources, Engage New York, Eureka Math, and Utah Math as well. And we allow you to assign all of the problem sets from within the lessons in these curricula online, get that class and student data, and students, like I said, much more than just doing pencil and paper work, they actually get feedback on whether their answers are correct or incorrect as they go. And so I'm just going to go live over here into the ASSISTments account. and show you what the content library looks like. You can see that you have the options to dive into any curriculum that you want. For the purpose of today, I'm just going to go into illustrative. You can see that we have all of it, and this is true for all of our open source curricula. They're sorted by grade level first. And then when you go within a grade level, you can see the units ordered and numbered exactly the same way as they appear in the curriculum. When you go within a unit, you can see those a folder for the unit assessments, and you can also see the individual lessons ordered and titled, again, the same way as the curriculum. And when you go within an individual lesson, you can actually see all of the sets of problems that go within that lesson in the curriculum. So here we can see the practice problems from this from lesson 2, unit 2 in grade 7. We can go to the student-facing task and see that and assign that, and even the cool down as well. So you can see each of those components right here and assign them to your students to support your lesson. So just coming back over here, obviously you're on that Find and Assign tab to see the content library. When you're on our main page, you can also click Explore Content to get there as well. And now what I want to do is just kind of show you what it looks to actually assign, and then we'll kind of recap that. So I'm just going to minimize my little video screen here. Okay. So in this case, let's say I don't want to automatically select all the problems. I'm just going to uncheck this, and I just want to pick a few problems from these practice problems. So I'm going to pick this question, and this question. Now I'm going to click Assign to Class, and it's going to give me some assign time options. We're not going to get into a crazy level of detail here, but basically you can change the title of the problem set. So I'm just going to call this demo problem set. Choose your LMS, in this case, Google Classroom. Choose your class. And then you can actually select individual students if you'd like to do that. But I'm just going to assign it this way. And it's going to tell you that that assignment has been successfully created. So just to recap, you can select the problems that you want and click Assign to Class. Again, you can change that title or leave it the same. Make sure you check your LMS and select the classes you want to assign to, and then you can click Assign, and the assignment goes to your students. So we want to give y'all a chance to actually try this out. And you can feel free to drop comments or anything like that in the chat as you go. But we want you to go ahead and find a problem set you want students to complete in an upcoming lesson. Choose your assign options and assign to a class if possible. Oh, that's a great question coming in the chat. So if you're using this for the first time, it's gonna prompt you to import or sync. So what you'll do there, and I'll just click the button so you can see, but if your classes don't appear, you can go click this button and click import. I can't in this account because it's just the one class, but you'll be able to check off any classes you want to include. The sync button is for when students exit your class or a new student comes in and you want to make sure that the information on our end is updated to what's in Google Classroom. You can click synchronize and make sure that everything appears the way it should. And then and that's another great question. What is test mode? We're not going to dive super deep into test mode today, but basically test mode, if you turn that on, it'll show you a little pop-up that shows you what it does, but it's a way to deliver problems to students where they get one chance and they're moved on to the next question and they do not get feedback. So that's better suited to your summative assessment experience. Let me go ahead and start that. I'm gonna leave this at stop this at 1 minute since I spent a bunch of time talking there. So at 1 minute, we'll come back together. I just want to give you all a chance to check that out. Test mode it's not super new. I think it's been a part of the platform for at least a year or so. but it is a feature that we've heard requested quite a bit. So we wanted to make sure it's in there.
And then Brian, Deborah just wanted to make sure she does she need to delete her previous classes to add a new class into Google Classroom if she used assessments before?
No, she can actually, when she click that import button, you can import any new classes. If you want to get rid of old classes, you would have to archive those in Google, but then and synchronize, and that'll update things on our end as well. But you can always add new classes by clicking import. Great question. All right, I'm going to move us on in about 10 seconds. Is there another question coming in there, Charmaine?
Nope, you're good to go. She was just saying thanks.
All righty then. All right, so let's keep it moving. So now that y'all have had a chance to see what the teacher experience looks like, we want to give you a chance to try as a student. And you can actually navigate to any problem set that you want. This is a recommended problem set, but I'm going to go live and show you what this looks like. So in any problem set, if you want to see what the student experience looks like, you can click this triple dot and click preview as a student. And that's going to allow you to actually complete the problem the same way a student would, so that you have a good idea of what experience students are getting before you actually deliver the assignment to them in Google. So that's a very important feature that we wanted you to be aware of. So we're going to give you all about 2 minutes to find a problem set of your choosing, or you can use this problem set from Illustrative Math. Try this out as a student, and then we appreciate any of y'all sharing your noticings and wonderings as you do that, which we'll discuss in just a minute. All right, we're going to come back together in about 50 seconds. Again, feel free to share any noticings or wonderings. If you have questions or you're not sure about something, feel free to post any of those things in the chat. We will have a chance to talk about those. Oop. Well, that takes us to the next slide anyway. That's fine. So I want to take just a minute or two here just to see if folks have any noticings or wonderings, and you can feel free to share those in the chat. We would love to hear from you just based on that experience of acting out as a student.
We already have a couple that came through, Brian. So Deborah, one of the things that she was looking at was 8th grade, and it's asking them to draw images. So when she has a question or wondering about is how are students supposed to answer this, like that style of question, if it's a text box, and then how do teachers grade it?
So first of all, any open response questions like that one, Those are the only types of questions we don't automatically grade for you or score for you. In our next session about data, we're going to go into detail about how you can actually score those problems. And, we make it super easy for you to do that. As far as what students do to answer that style of question, we recommend that, just because you're using ASSISTments doesn't mean you get rid of your pencil paper routine. We still recommend that students are doing their work on paper. And so in our open response boxes, students do have the option to upload or take a quick picture, upload a picture, stuff like that. And that's the best option that we suggest for teachers who are uploading images. Thank you, Latrice, for sharing that as well. So Latrice has students upload images. But we do think it's actually really important that you maintain a pencil paper routine with ASSISTments. It's not here to just replace that, it's here to enhance it. And then I see Claire mentioned that there are some hints that students can use. So we have experienced ASSISTments educators that we pay to create hints and explanations. It's a work in progress right now, so it's being built out. It does not exist across all problems and all curricula. And we are excited to also say that in the next month or so, we're releasing a feature that will allow you as the teacher to create any hints or explanations for problems as you like. And then those supersede whatever's already been created, so you can make sure your kids get hints that you think are appropriate as well. Any other noticings or wonderings? No problem, Claire. Feel free to share any other noticings or wonderings in the chat. That's great. So you mentioned that if students ask for a hint or they use that hint, it counts as an incorrect response. So we want to be able to distinguish between students who are answering a question correctly on the first attempt versus those that need help versus those who still can't get it right on their own, with help or not. And so that's what that is a part of. Because this is a formative experience, we do want to also clarify that these are scores, not grades per se. So that decrease in score reflects that student doesn't understand the content maybe quite as well as a student who gets it right on the first attempt. And then let's see, what else do we have coming in the chat, Charmaine?
And Tina was wondering if teachers are able to see the show answer on their side. So some of them have that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you'll be able to see if a student was unable to get to a correct answer on their own. That shows up as a pink circle or pink chip with a 0 in it in your report. And you can also see it in the student details, which we'll talk more about that when we get into data reports.
And then lastly, Heather just asked, are students able to skip a question and return to it?
Students cannot skip and return to a question in order to generate, or at least right now, the whole point is that we want students to demonstrate what they know. And so we want them to get to either, show answer or, putting in the correct answer before they move on to another question. However, when you go to assign, you do have the option, and I'll show this really quickly. When you go to problem order, you can pick student choice, and then students will actually see all the problems and they can pick which ones to go into. So if you want more of that type of experience, you can always assign your problems in student choice. All right, great questions coming in. Because we showed y'all that quick, easy way to preview as a student, we do want to clarify that in Google Classroom, students will log in and click the assignment link, within the assignment, and I'll show what this looks like in a moment. The first time they do that, it's going to ask them to click this button to create a new account. But after that, they're good to go. They can click an ASSISTments link, they can complete their problems. There is no separate login, so we keep it nice and simple. So if I go over here to my student experience, and I'm going to go to the classwork tab here. Here's that problem set I created earlier. I can click that here and access that assignment as a student. Just to recap a few elements of what y'all just saw in the student experience when you tried this out. Students are answering one question at a time, and they receive feedback as they complete their work by putting the answers into the box at the bottom here. If they're correct, it'll say correct. If it's incorrect, it'll tell them to try again and say that their answer is not correct. When they click that show answer button, it will show the correct answer, but when they put it in, when they click that show answer button, it automatically drops their score to 0. So they can still put the answer in and submit and move on, but it brings their score to 0 to indicate they were unable to come to the correct answer on their own, or some kind of problem has occurred here, right? One other feature I wanted to highlight is the student report, and we're also going to be revamping this in the coming months as well. But students have the option to hover over and preview the problems. They can see their own performance on the assignment. And importantly, if there's one of those open response questions and you score it and leave feedback, they can see that by clicking into that assistance link after they're finished anytime that they want to, or if you want them to. I'll go ahead and pause here and see if folks have any questions.
Nothing's coming through in the chat, so if you want to keep going, you should be. I lied. Something just happened.
that wait time is powerful. It gets the juices flowing. What do we have?
Tina's wondering what happens if you try to access questions after the due date.
That's another great question. So students can always access a problem set after the due date. However, when they do that, it's going to show in your assignment report that they completed it X amount of time late. So you will see that they've turned it in late. They can still go and access and complete the problems. They just get that, you just get that notification in your report. Oh, and then there's another question that came in.
Yeah, so Mary was wondering, does the student report update after the teacher changes the score? And then is it available for students to view again?
Yes, and yes. So once you put the or a score and a comment on an open response, students can pretty much immediately go back to that link and click the assignment link to see your score and feedback. Unless you delete the assignment from your Google Classroom, they can go back to that link anytime and see your score and feedback on open responses. So it doesn't just automatically go away when they finish it. Great question. All right. So introducing assessments to your students. There are a few key considerations that you want to think about. And again, you don't have to remember all of this right this moment. You will get a follow-up email with a copy of the slide deck. You can come back and look at this anytime. No problem, Mary. So the first is just some things that students need to know. Is that students, the purpose of assessments is to help them grow and learn. It's for practice, right? So it's okay to get incorrect answers. It's okay to get a low score. All that does is show you as the teacher how to help them best, in the next round of instruction. You want to show them how to access their assignments and how to complete an assignment. So what it looks like to use that immediate feedback, how you want them to respond to open response questions. And we have some guidance and resources on how to make sure students know these things. In a little bit, we'll talk about that. Some key messages for students, especially as they get started. We know how difficult it can be to deconstruct a negative mindset around a tech tool after students have already decided they don't like it, right? So some key messages for students include things like use the feedback to help you and try again. telling the students, here's how I will use the data after you're finished to help you after the assignment's finished, right? So let them know, I'm going to modify my instruction based on what are, what's challenging for y'all, and I'm going to help you understand the content better. And then, like I said before, assessments is for practice. It's okay to make mistakes during practice. If students think that they're going to be held accountable for accuracy on practice, they're going to apply a fixed mindset to practice, not a growth mindset. They're not going to be willing to deeply engage with rigorous content. And we know that that's a barrier in a lot of teachers' classes. So you really have to emphasize it is okay to make mistakes in here. You're not going to be penalized in terms of your actual grades in the class if you make a mistake or an incorrect answer in assessments. So it's here to help. I wanted to go ahead and take a moment and have folks share in the chat. Now that we've kind of gone through the student experience and talk about some of the key messages for students, what challenges do you foresee students having when getting started with completing their math assignments and assessments? So feel free to share any challenges you think students might have. And I'm going to pause this timer at 1 minute. I see some are coming in. What do we have, Charmaine?
So far both were saying uploading images. I think specifically the fact that Tina teaches geometry. I also taught geometry in high school, so there is a lot of like imagery things there. But then also Latrice mentioned like uploading images, issues with tech, like the lagging for students. And then also if they're not able to complete them in the classroom. So the technology issue outside of the classroom, accessibility for students.
Absolutely. So those are really important challenges to consider. So especially with topics that are image heavy, and drawing heavy, like geometry, but really in general, you want to make sure all students are normed on what process you want them to use to show their work. So if that includes clicking the take a picture button, putting up their, putting their their paper up and taking a picture of that, if it includes them using a drawing tool, and using that drawing and uploading that image, make sure students are clear on what you want them to do when you get started, right? And then as far as doing work when not in the classroom, obviously that's a huge challenge just in general, but make sure students are clear with your routine. And if you don't finish in class, you need to finish by this time, or if I see that you completed it late and I put a due date on it, then oh, let me pause that. Then you're going to, lose points for participation or whatever, whatever that looks like. And then the time it takes for them to enter and process their feedback. Does it add time to their homework? We don't find that it adds time to the homework. You just want to make sure students understand, what their options are if they're being told they're incorrect. It could be that they made a mistake and they just need to try again. It could be that they need to talk to a desk partner. It could be that they need to reach out to you and ask you a question. So just make sure they're clear on their options. But no, we don't find that students take a bunch of extra time doing it this way.
And one thing like Heather brought up was the percentage maybe being like a negative impact or a response for students. So potentially being able to change the score to 1/3 or 2/3 or 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3, as opposed to like 33% or 67%. So yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Heather. I'm a huge advocate for that in our internal team. That is something that we are rolling out. I don't have a specific date for you on that, but I do know that we are shifting away from those percentages ultimately, because students are, it's too easy for students to code that percentage as a grade. And right now, the only solution to that is before you even get them started, and probably before each assignment, tell them this is not a grade, this is for practice. So don't treat that percentage as a grade. But you're right, you'll get a better response more easily once we shift over to getting rid of those percentages in the student experience. Great point. I'll go ahead and pause here to see if there are any questions. Actually, go ahead and post questions in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and move us on to the next section here. So just wanted to show you how to access your data. We consider our data to be our secret sauce, and we recommend that you analyze it early and often. Share key data points with students. Make sure they understand how you use their data to drive your instruction. I'm going to bypass this video for now, but I do want to just show you how you can access your assessments data. So you can do that one of two ways. In Google Classroom, and we recommend going from the classwork tab here. You can go to any assessments assignment as a teacher. You click that same link that students see, but when you click it, it takes you into your assignment report. The other way you can do this is from within your assessments account. You can go to My Assignments, filter by class, what have you. Any assignment you can click the assignment and then click here to view a report. So that's how you can access your assignment report data. All right, I'll pause here for about 30 seconds to see if anybody has any additional questions. Oh, do we have something come in?
Tina wants to know if the assignment summary is generic.
Oh, interesting question. Yeah, like I said, we're going to get more into the data in our next session, but when you're in the assignment report, it's not generic. You'll see this is a performance summary, but below that you can see a breakdown of data by individual students. So you do get your data according to each student, and you can see it that way. Great question. All right, so your assessments plan. We created a resource, and Charmaine is going to share the link in the chat that will allow you to to create your own copy of your 1 week or week 1 and month plan to get started. But basically, we recommend these steps to onboard your students in a positive and effective way. They include the student tutorial video, utilizing these student practice assignments we've created to get them familiar with the platform, and doing those things before you assign your first curriculum-based assignment. And then you want to make sure to give students shout out, praise those students who did what they were supposed to, praise students who persevered and made multiple attempts to get to a correct answer, show them that you're seeing what they're doing, and then make sure you preview what things are going to look like. And like I said, share key data points from that report and explain to students, okay, well, I noticed y'all scored lower on this problem as a class, so we're going to talk about this, and I'm going to give you some additional practice so that you can build your confidence on this skill. So tell them directly. All right, so wrap up. Our goals for today were, again, understanding that teacher and student experience, making sure you understand how to find and assign content from the curriculum that you use, and talking about some key considerations for introducing assessments to your students. So we showed you that teacher and student experience, went over some of those key considerations, showed you how to access your data report, and also shared that resource that you can use to plan your onboarding of students. I want folks to share, actually, we're gonna go ahead and move on. So I did want to take a moment, make sure I have enough time to talk about our upcoming sessions. So on the 23rd of this month, we do have the session, just a general session on, the data report, from learning data to learning growth with assessments. We have curriculum specific versions of those sessions for Illustrative and Eureka on September 6th and September 20th, respectively. All of our sessions are at 6 p.m. And when I send you this deck, you can click the direct link to sign up, or you can do that directly from our website. We do have the Help Center on our website, so you can go here and go to User Resources, and we have a variety of user resources. I know some of y'all are itching to get started with data, so you can go right here to Reports and Data, and we have a bunch of resources you can use to understand how to interpret our data reports. But again, different topics, support for students. You know, you can go to our frequently asked questions or our webinar library, which showcases recordings. So you have a lot of different options there. And then we want you to go ahead, and we're at time, but Charmaine is going to share our feedback survey in the chat. We really appreciate y'all taking 30 seconds just to give us feedback on today's session. And we use your feedback to guide basically how we evolve these sessions and improve them moving forward. So we very, very much appreciate you providing your feedback at the link that Charmaine just shared in the chat. And as you are finishing your surveys there, we thank y'all for coming. You know, like I said, we want to help you leverage technology so that you can achieve first order change in your classrooms. And that means creating a fundamental difference between what things look like without the technology versus what they look like with technology. And we hope that ASSISTments can be a tool that helps you do that and helps you better serve the needs of all of your students in all of your classes. So definitely happy to be here with y'all today, and I'll stay on for a few more minutes just in case folks have any questions. You can stay on and pop those in the chat.
Is anyone, just because Latrice